Hello, welcome to LifeTalk for July 29th, 2017. I'm Mark Crutcher.
And I'm Renee Hobbs. Thanks for joining us today.
Yes. Now, earlier you may have seen some promotion for a show that we were supposed to do today, and we've had to push it off until tomorrow. And that's going to be a really interesting show. I want to encourage everybody to let all your friends know about it. It's basically, we're seeing that pro-life, that the movement is being swamped with young pro-lifers, young people in the younger age groups. Millennials are coming into the pro-life movement in numbers we've never seen before. And there's some really interesting factors that are causing that to happen. And we've done some research on this, and I wrote about it in my latest book, Siege.
Yeah,
and
real insightful things that people may have not have thought about.
might not have thought about and don't know that are going on. So we'll be talking about that tomorrow. But we postponed that because something new was brought to our attention by one of our viewers, Leslie Hanks in Colorado. And just kind of tell people what that's about, Renee.
Okay, yeah. There's this story really needs our help at getting the message out. There's a baby that's 10 months old that's in the UK that the courts there will not allow him to go home. They have basically sentenced him to die there in the hospital, and so we have Leslie Hanks that right. can give us some more details on that.
Yeah, Leslie's joining us by phone from Colorado, and Leslie's an old-time friend of mine. I did seminars for her back in the 80s, I guess it was. Hello, Leslie.
Hey, how are you guys today?
Well, we're great, and we want to tell you how much we appreciate your coming on today. Give us a little more detail about this situation.
Well, I am so grateful to y'all for considering swapping your show plans around for this poor little baby, Charlie Gard. He's a little month old, lives in Britain, and his parents, Chris and Connie, are fighting for his life. He has a rare genetic disease called mitochondrial DNA depletion syndrome, and the physicians in Europe are they've decided that he doesn't have a quality of life worth fighting for, but they have raised over $1 million, almost $2 million, $1.6 million on their own to bring him to America to undergo some experimental therapies, and the doctors here are hopeful that it could be helpful to him. Now, he has suffered a little brain damage or some brain damage from this condition so far, but, socialized medicine that we're headed towards, sadly to say, death panels are the inevitable result, and that's what we're seeing with this little baby Charlie Gard. And so we're, in a last-ditch effort, Hail Mary pass, if you will, trying to get the word out via social media as much as we can and see if there's anything that can possibly be done to save this baby. And these parents have every right to bring their child home, but the hospital is not allowing it. So their last appeal was to the European Commission on Human Rights, and that was in Strasbourg, France, and even that authority, that body of individuals that are charged with deciding what human rights are, has apparently decided that he needs to die with dignity. So it's a very tragic case, but we need everybody praying and trying to share his story and do what we can possibly do to save his life.
Well, and so basically the courts there are saying that it's Charlie's human rights to expire in the hospital bed there. So they are speaking for Charlie. Forget about the parents. I mean, they have no say-so whatsoever in what goes on in Charlie's life.
Leslie, you mentioned earlier when you were talking to Renee on the phone, this is very reminiscent of the Terry Schiavo situation.
It certainly is, and it's just becoming too commonplace.
And there's been other ones, Karen Ann Quinlan and others that we've dealt with over the years.
Right, Jahai McMath.
Yeah,
she was declared brain dead, and she's still alive 2 or 3 years later.
Right.
No, she was declared. She had a certificate, I should say. I mean, you could throw that brain dead designation around all day long, but they actually, the Children's Hospital in Oakland, issued a death certificate for her, and yet she's still alive and carrying on the bodily functions that any young woman would, with the exception that she is in some kind of a deep coma.
Well, we had Father Frank Pavone became kind of the national spokesperson for Terry Schiavo. I'm sure you remember that.
Yes, I was down there most of the months that she was being starved.
And, I contacted him one day to point out that there was a case that we had seen in Kansas just about the time that the Terry Schiavo thing was going on. And this woman who had been in a coma for like 7 years or 8 years, one day just woke up. And
was that Kate Atkinson by chance?
I don't remember her name, but she woke up and they said the first thing she said is, "I'm hungry. I want something to eat."
Right. And you know, that all the time, honestly. There's so many cases of it. I can even find a link for you to show how often that can happen. And the thing that's so stunning about it is that so often they'll say, "We heard everything. I heard everything that was going on while y'all were trying to plot my death." You know, so
well, you know, this
thing.
I remember at the time, and the reason I told that to Father Frank, and I'm sure that he used it in some venues down there, but by this point, I think the die was cast for Terri Schiavo. They were going to kill her no matter what. But
absolutely.
But this woman's medical diagnosis was not similar to Terri Schiavo's, but was exactly the same as what Terri Schiavo's was. And yet they're murdering her, and this woman pops out of the coma.
Absolutely.
And
it was so unjust that they did to Terri. It's still. In fact, last weekend I was sparring with somebody on social media about her court-ordered murder, if you will. And, of course, the person was a medical professional, and she had all the talking points from way back when. It was so horrendous. But I have three or four books on Terri's story, and I got them all out, and I've got them sitting here by my chair in my living room. And I read through so much of this one book is called, maybe you've seen it, Mark, it's called Our Fight for Terri. Cheryl Ford put it together, and it's got a ton of the actual documents from, you know, everybody that examined her, and there was a physician in a SPAR, and his medical records say he believes that she was strangled. Her injury came from a strangulation attempt. Yep. So the fact that Michael Schiavo is still a free man, and the two horrible people, George Filos and Greer, that sentenced her to death and facilitated and, you know, pushed her starvation and dehydration death for, well, it took, 14 days, but they had that plot hatched, you know, for years, because Michael had tried to starve her a couple of years earlier.
Right, and I think there was some hidden motives there, and sometimes I don't think they were all that hidden. But let's go back to this little baby the situation that's current. I mean, the Terri Schiavo analogy is a good one, but the fact is Terri Schiavo's with the Lord now, and this baby still has a shot.
And this baby could easily come to America to try to get the help that he needs, and they're not allowing it. And
you know, what we need to be looking at is, you know, a couple of years ago, it wasn't just 2 or 3 years ago, Father Frank got involved in a situation like this in Canada. And the Canadian government was refusing to let that baby come to the United States, but finally Father Frank prevailed on that deal and got that baby brought in. So maybe we need to be getting the people that
I have not texted him or done, you know, even contacted him. So that, yes, let's get that going. I could maybe even do that while we're talking.
I completely forgot about that one.
Yeah, but he worked on behalf of that little Canadian baby.
Yeah.
So we need to be looking at that. But Leslie, let's try to at least, I know there's a lot of people that are going to be watching this are going to be like we are and going to be very frustrated with saying, okay, what can I do? There's a baby somewhere in this world. But the fact is there are 3,000 babies right here in the United States that are going to be executed just like this little baby is. But the fact remains, we've got this baby. He's already born. The parents want him. There's two or three things we need to be looking at. First off, you touched on it earlier. We are headed in this country to a single-payer system. That's what Obamacare was always intended to produce.
That's what the point I was going to bring up in a minute.
Correct about that.
That's where we're headed.
That's where we're headed. I guarantee you the Obama administration knew that it was going to fail. It was designed to fail, but it was designed to get people hooked on it like a drug and then take it away from them when it collapses and say the only solution here is a single-payer system, and that's where we're headed. And this baby is being sentenced to death because Great Britain already has a single-payer system like we're headed towards.
That's right. It's coming this way, and it's coming real quick. And
if
we
fast.
have a nation that doesn't value human life, this is it.
This is the way. If we think that God is going to continue to bless America the way he does in the past, as long as we spit in his face 3,000 times a day, killing these babies and doing all of this sort of nonsense, we're whistling past the graveyard. We're nuts.
That's right. And,
But,
here we have control of the White House and the House of Representatives. What are we waiting for? We can't even get Planned Parenthood defunded. And that's the pathetic lowest bar that you could set,
Right.
We need to be prosecuting these people for crimes against humanity.
Well, as we sat here, Leslie, I've just written down 4 things because I know people are frustrated when they hear about these stories, and your heart breaks for this little baby that's sitting over there who's got parents that love him, parents that want to give him the best shot that he can get, doctors in the United States that are saying, we think we can save him or we think we can give him some sort of shot at life, and yet you have a morally bankrupt, evil government that's going to stand between those doctors and that baby and those parents. That's what's happening. And
Yep.
what we need, I wrote down 4 things here I think we can be doing. First thing is we need to be praying feverishly for this baby. The second thing is we need to be contacting our state representatives and our federal representatives, your state representatives in every state, plus your congressmen and senators in D.C. If we swamp them with enough calls, we've got to be the squeaky wheel that gets the oil, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
We can't just sit back and allow these kind of atrocities to go on. So if we can get everybody that's listening to this to get all of their friends and swamp the Capitol switchboard in D.C. with phone calls, and I think the other thing we need to be doing is we need to be calling the British Embassy.
Oh, that's a good idea. And how about the Court of Human Rights? You think I doubt they're responsive, but it certainly couldn't hurt, right?
It couldn't hurt. You wouldn't think. Anyway, we need to be calling the British Embassy to get them to do something about it. We also need to be calling the Trump administration and saying, you claim now that you're pro-life. If your pro-life credentials are legitimate, here's an opportunity to show it. Just like defunding Planned Parenthood. I don't understand what the holdup would be in defunding Planned Parenthood, but whatever it is, you can't continue to fund Planned Parenthood and simultaneously claim to be pro-life, because if you do that, you're lying. You're lying to yourself and you're lying to everybody else that's pro-life.
Yes, you're totally right.
So,
for the number for the British Embassy, and doesn't seem to have a phone number.
Well, people can find that online. So go online, get your congressmen and your state senators and your federal senators, get all their phone numbers and be swamping them with calls, swamp the Bush administration, swamp the British Embassy. And I think the British Embassy would be not interested in receiving a bunch of calls from pro-lifers talking about a baby that the British government is killing. But that's what's happening.
A phone number that says urgent assistance. Now, it does say in D.C., Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, or West Virginia, and you need urgent help. But I don't know why we couldn't try it, right?
What do we got to lose?
Okay, 202-588-6500.
202-588-6500.
Right. Now, let me see if I can't pull up that White House hotline.
And again, we need to be praying for this situation. Not only praying for that baby, but praying for those parents. As a father who has lost a child, my wife and I had a baby that died, and I can tell you that when she died, and I'm sitting there as the father who's supposed to be the one that protects your children, and there was nothing I could do. It was the most helpless feeling in the world. I can't imagine how these two parents must be sitting there feeling, watching their 10-month-old baby basically be executed by the British government. Because that's what's happening. If it'd be one thing if they said, well, we're not going to render aid to this child. That'd be bad enough. But for them to stand between people who are willing to render aid is criminal. The people responsible for this ought to be in a British penitentiary. That won't happen, but that's what should happen. These people are, like I said, I can't even imagine what these poor parents are going through, because I went through it. But at least when my wife and I went through it, there was nothing anybody could do. Our daughter had a fatal illness, and she could not be saved. But this baby might be able to be saved. And I'm just sitting here thinking, the day that Jackie died, had I been sitting there knowing that there were doctors somewhere that wanted to help her, and wanted to help her survive, but the United States government was saying, no, you can't do that, I don't know what I would have done. But that's
it would make you lose your mind, right?
I'm sorry?
It would make you lose your mind.
Yeah.
It's so cruel.
It really would. Well, anyway, Leslie, we're about out of time. I want to really thank you for this, and people can go online, find the names and numbers of their state representatives and their federal representatives, and we need to be on the phones all over this country. We need to be the squeaky wheel, and don't worry about being unpopular or unliked. If you got into the pro-life movement to be popular and to be liked, you're an idiot, because you're never going to be popular and you're never going to be liked doing this. I
have the White House comment line. Would that be a good one to give out before I let you go?
It's the White House switchboard that you want.
Okay, it's 202-456-1414.
202-456-1414.
Right, and people can also use that number, I think, to ask for their senator and representative. Is that not true?
I don't know. That changes from administration to administration. It used to be the case.
Okay.
But anyway,
well, thank you so much for highlighting baby's plight, and let's everybody be praying and doing what we can do today.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us, Leslie.
Thank you, Leslie.
Oh, what an honor. Thank you. God bless.
Bye-bye.
Well, if we can do all we can do.
All we can do is all we can do.
Yeah, just continue to pray.
Yep, that's right.
Yep.
But I can't imagine the anguish of these parents.
Right.
Sitting there, because like I said, I sat and watched our daughter die, but there was nothing anybody could do. You know, it was, we gave her over to God, and that's whatever. And I've talked to you about this before. I know the reason that all this happened now, looking back on it. I didn't understand it at the time, but I do now. But I just can't imagine how I would have felt if, when I'm sitting here watching her pass away, to know that there were people that not only might be able to help her, but that were willing to help her. Mm-hmm. And people had sent in millions of dollars to help her, and the government comes and stands between me and that.
Right.
Lord knows what I would have done.
Yeah, right. I mean, what do you do?
I don't know what you do.
Yeah.
But anyway, we thank you for joining us today. I know this is a very difficult show. It was a difficult show for us to do, but it's something we needed to do. It's something we needed to know about. And I need you guys, every one of you, to spread this around and get those phones lighting up in Washington, D.C., and in the state capitals and so forth. Somebody's got to do something about this. And like I said, tomorrow's show is going to be a lot more upbeat, and it's the good news part of this. This is the bad news part. Tomorrow's the good news part. And I want to encourage everybody to watch that. But this is the way LifeTalk is supposed to work. We had a show planned. We were, 10 minutes from getting ready to go.
Oh, yeah.
And this came up, and you had to scurry around and get Leslie on board and do the things that were necessary to put this show together. Mm-hmm. This is the way it's supposed to work. And I want everybody out there to understand something. This is not my show. It's not Renee's show. It's not Life Dynamics show. It's your show. We're here to serve you. But if we're going to serve you, you've got to do your part too, and you got to let us know about things like this. We can't be everywhere. So we need to know about things like this, and we need to have your help in spreading this message and getting this show watched more often than what it is being watched so far. Although we're getting good numbers, but it's growing, but we need to do more, and the only way that's going to happen is with your help. So anyway, you have anything else?
Nope, that's
You're
it.
done.
Yep.
Stick you with the fort.
Yep.
Okay. Listen, that's all the time we have. Until next time, remember, Life Dynamics is not here to put up a good fight. We're here to win, because winning is how the killing stops. We'll see you tomorrow.